this experience of we win a revolution, we write a constitution, that wasn't the end of the story. In a lot of ways, that's the beginning of the story of American independence.
This is Grounded in Granite, where every person and every place has a story to tell. I'm Jason Schreiber. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Grounded in Granite. I'm in Exeter, New Hampshire at the American Independence Center, and I'm joined by the executive director of this center, Joe Pace. It is a big year. It's America's 250th birthday.
Right.
So big year, lots of excitement nationally, but also here in Exeter because this center has a ton of history, and behind us is a copy of the Declaration of Independence, but you have an original, right? You have an original copy.
Sure. Well, Jason, it's good to be on here with you. And let me just say that the history gets a little bit, got to unpack it a little bit, which is,
there's a lot to
we're all familiar with the Declaration of Independence with all the signatures across the board.
Right.
We see at the National Archives or on posters or whatever.
Right.
And that's the big one that, John Hancock signed huge, so George in London could read it without his glasses. That's not what we have. There's only one of those, and that's in Washington at the archives. What they did on that day, July 4 of 1776, was they went to a young printer in Philadelphia named John Dunlap and said, we want 200 of these to send out to across the colonies and across the world to announce to everybody what it is that we've done. Right. And so he made these poster-sized prints called broadsides that referred to the size of the print that was done. And those went out hither and yon to everywhere and were, read in various times and places. Here at Exeter, the first time the Declaration was read was 2 weeks after the 4th of July, because it took that long to get here. To Exeter. Right. And young John Gilman, who was 22, who lived in this house, and he read it at Exeter Town Common. And then, of course, it disappears to history. These were memos. They weren't really meant to be kept. And so this first printing of the Declaration for public consumption, fast forward a couple hundred years later, in the late 1980s or mid-1980s, only 25 were known to exist. And most of those were fragmentary or stained or had tears or whatever else. And here in this building in 1985, an original copy, this Dunlap Broadside of the first printing of the Declaration was found in the attic here.
In the attic, which
electricians
were
doing some work.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they found, and it was in perfect condition.
Wow.
It's probably the best of the Dunlap Broadsides that we know about. It's in complete perfect condition. As you can see behind me, that's what it looks like. That's, if Nicolas Cage is listening, that's not the original. The original is in a secure location.
It's a copy, but so you secure it, but you've got, but it does occasionally come out.
It does. It comes out. We bring it out for special occasions. And this year, July 9 and 11 for festival, we'll have it out here along with our draft copy of the Constitution that we have in original 11. So those two documents will appear here on campus.
So that's during the American Independence Festival that will be held. And that's always held after the 4th of July. So explain.
It's because it represents when the Declaration arrived here in New Hampshire to the revolutionary capital, which Exeter was at the time.
Because some people wonder, why is the festival always held after the 4th if they don't know the story of the history there?
It celebrates its arrival here in town. And so I don't know what else other places around the country when they celebrate it, but that's what we've done for the last 35 years here in Exeter.
So explain again. So when it was found in the attic, explain that story.
Sure. Well, a little bit of backstory to that is the building that we're in, the Ladd Gilman House, was built in 1721. And parts of this building actually, during the Revolution, Exeter was the capital of the then state of New Hampshire, and the treasury for the state was here in Exeter. So you would have come to this building to happily, gleefully pay your taxes, with no complaints. Nobody's ever complained about taxes. And so, fast forward to 1900, and the Society of the Cincinnati in the state of New Hampshire purchased this building to be Cincinnati Hall, to be their clubhouse. And for those who don't know, the Society of the Cincinnati are the direct descendants of George Washington's revolutionary officers. So the New Hampshire chapter are the descendants of his New Hampshire officers. There are 14 chapters, one for each of the colonies, and then one for France, for Lafayette's officers. So they own the property when this broadside is found. They decide they're going to try to sell it. The state of New Hampshire says, not so fast. That is the document was sent to us, not to you. The Cincinnati Society says, well, we have it. And so 5 years of litigation in the courts ensue. And the conclusion of that was a joint custody agreement by which there's no real answer as to who owns the document, but the answer is that the general public has the right to view it. And so they create in 1991 the American Independence Center, where American independence can be celebrated, studied, and embraced, and the document and others like it can be on display.
So that's amazing. So really the discovery of this document led to what we have today with the center here. And so explain what the center is for people who have not been here before, and what the buildings are involved. And
Sure. Well, while our name has always legally been the American Independence Center, most people know us as the American Independence Museum, which has been our public-facing trade name for the last 35 years.
Yeah.
And that includes the building we're in, the Ladd Gilman, which has had a museum in it for 3.5 decades, where you can see tea from the Boston Tea Party, and you can see muskets, and you can see portraits, and you can read exhibits and experience the story of how American independence came to be. And that museum, by the way, is still here and has new exhibits for this 250th year and beyond. The museum's going as great as ever. The change over to the center has more to do with the fact that we're doing more than just a museum. Sometimes folks think of a museum as a sort of a passive experience. You go and you see a picture, you read a panel, and then you've had your historic hygiene and you go home all clean. We're a little bit more engaged than that. We're trying to elevate civic dialogue. We're trying to convince people that this American experiment isn't something that happened. It's something that's happening. And that history is ongoing, and they're a part of it. So we have this building. We also have the Folsom Tavern, also was on our grounds. It was built in 1775, not where it sits. It was actually built where me and Ollie's is now in town in Exeter, for those who know that. And that is a fully restored 1775 tavern, more than 80% original. It's absolutely beautiful, and we have programming and events in there, from field trips to beer for history in the fall and other things.
When was that moved? Do you know when that was moved?
Yeah, it's moved a couple of different times.
Okay.
It was moved to early in its life. It moved to shift over more onto Front Street in Exeter, and then it moved over onto Spring Street. And in 2007, it moved to its final location here to be fully restored. 2007
here, where it is now. Okay, and that's occasionally. Well, I guess when you come to visit the museum, where the Ladd Gilman House, you can go if you get for a tour here. You can go down to
correct. Yeah, when you come here for a tour. And we're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 10 to 4 during the summer, from May 1 to October 31. You can tour the museum here at the Ladd Gilman, and then go down and also tour the tavern. Both of which are completely free admission, by the way.
Okay. So explain the experience then for people who are coming and touring. Like what are they going to see? Like what will the tour offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Ladd Gilman House tour is a chronological narrative of American independence. First, you come in, you're in a historic building. And I know for some folks, that's half the fun. I mean, you're in a building where Nicholas Gilman, who signed the Constitution of the United States, lived here, walked on these floors. And that alone, to be proximate to history in that way, is fun for a lot. Yeah, I know it is for me.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to the Moffat Ladd or you're going to the Governor Wentworth, whatever it is. The preservation of these buildings is part of it. So you come through and you are present where history happened, and roaming through the ghosts of the people who did it. And so you'll experience what colonial life was like. You'll experience what the origins of democracy through the New England Town Meeting, and then you come in talking about independence. How did all that happen? We talk about, everyone knows about Lexington and Concord in April of 1775, shot heard around the world. 6 months before then, here in New Hampshire, over at Newcastle at Fort William and Mary, in December of 74, American patriots seized a British fort. And that was the first overt act of the revolution. So you learn about things like that we maybe didn't hear about in school. We hear about the Boston Massacre, and we hear about the Battle of Bunker Hill, how the Declaration was found, how it was written. We go into talk then about the revolution itself, and you'll see armaments and portraiture and documents that relate to the revolutionary struggle itself. We have the surrender document from the Battle of Yorktown, when the revolution was won by the American forces. And then move into talking about the Constitution, how and why that was written. You can see early drafts of the Constitution. Nicholas Gilman, who lived here and went down to Philadelphia as a delegate, we have his early draft with his handwriting on it. Which shows you that this document isn't this secular scripture that came down from the mountaintop with Moses on the tablets, but was written by fellow human beings. And then, of course, this year, this 250th, and part of the story of the center is, this experience of we win a revolution, we write a constitution. That wasn't the end of the story. In a lot of ways, that's the beginning of the story of American independence. And so we're trying to then engage people in the rest of that story, whether we're talking about abolition and suffrage and civil rights, or talking about the Bill of Rights and how that's evolved and how the amendments to the Constitution have changed over the years. This independence isn't something we did; it's something we do, Jason. And everybody that's whether they're listening and watching this right now or reading about it later, they are not a spectator to American independence. They're active participants.
It's a good point, because we don't think about that on a daily basis, that we're sort of, there's always another chapter, and we're part of that. And
it's a continuing experiment.
It is. So for the 250th, what have you guys have had some extra, what have you guys been doing?
Sure.
What's the...
well, from a programming standpoint, certainly we have the American Independence Festival in July, which will have we'll have the reading of the Declaration, which we always do in Artisans, and we'll have reenactments. We're actually going to have both Redcoat and Patriot reenactors who are going to be shooting at each other. Which is always a
fun time.
It's always fun when it's not live ammo. It's always fun. But we've had a number of new programs that we put into place. In January, we had the New Hampshire Draft Constitution from 1776. Which a lot of people don't know about, is that in January of 76, New Hampshire drafted its own constitution. In 75, we chased off the royal government of New Hampshire, and there was no government in New Hampshire. And the Committee of Safety was meeting here in Exeter, and they wrote to the Continental Congress, to Hancock and Washington, Adams and Franklin, and said, what do we do? And they wrote back saying, well, make a government. And so the first effort at writing a constitution here in the states, before they were the states, 6 months before the Declaration, was here in New Hampshire. And back in January, we brought the original document down from the state archives, 250 years to the day from when it was written, to the town where it was written. And 400 people in the cold 4 days after New Year's showed up to hear a lecture and to and to see a document most of them had never heard of. So that's the kind of thirst for this kind of content that we're talking about. We have speaker series that we're doing. This fall, we're going to kick off our Beer for History series, where down in the tavern, a brewery comes in and serves beer, and we have a historic program that takes place, whether we talk about chocolate at the time of the Revolution, or we talk about clocks during colonial time. So it's a way to get have a brew and learn a little something.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah. And so there's new exhibits here as well. We have the Republic Room that's been added this year, which is a timeline of American history from the Constitution through to today. And it encourages our visitors to think about all that through that lens of, well, independence for who and freedom to do what? And then we also have a special 10-year series kicking off this year called Amending America, which will take a deep dive look at each of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, one per year. So this year being the First Amendment. And
you've tried to kind of make some sort of an interactive experience with what you have upstairs, right? I mean,
correct. Yeah. In particular, the Amending America series. As people learn about, why were these rights included in the Bill of Rights, and then how have they evolved over time? How does judicial precedent and new rulings interpret those now? And then there'll be some statements on the wall that people can agree, disagree, and after they've now had this experience in learning about how our democracy came to be, they get to, the whole point of democracy is to participate in it, and they get to voice their feelings on, well, should flag burning be a protected form of expression? Should public school employees have the right to kneel in prayer on public school property? These sorts of questions or statements, really, that you then can say, yeah, I agree with that, or no, I don't, which is at the heart of our civic dialogue.
What is your attendance in an average year here? Do you know roughly how many people are coming
prior
through
to COVID, it was probably between 1,900 and 2,000 people. And that doesn't include the 3,000 or 4,000 that come to festival or our hundreds upon hundreds that we have for school field trips or other special programs. That's just for tours through the museum. And then since COVID, it probably was closer to 1,200. Last year, we were close to 1,400. This year, we're on track for over 2,000. We're on track to be our busiest year. We just had May. We just finished May. And we had almost 350 people here for May, which is, we've never had more than 300 before. So what we're really seeing is both the year that it is.
Yeah, that helps.
And then the fact that we've made it so that admission is free.
Yeah.
Because independence is for all of us. Everybody should be able to come.
And when was that? When did that become?
Started that last year.
Last year. Right. Okay. So that helps too, to bring bring people in. But then is just the interest. I mean, I think it's fascinating. A lot of people obviously are just think it's a fascinating experience, but trying to, reach maybe younger people who, just the name museum sometimes turns people away. Just
the museum and now this is a bit of semantics.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear museum, you think it's a place to go look at things and not touch anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas a center is a place where things happen, where we engage with each other and we engage with the material. And that's what we're trying to build now is this reputation of being an exciting place, a place where you can go and not just learn and have fun, but also I see it upstairs with our Amending America program where people talk to each other. They'll say like, hey, what do you think? How did you answer that question? And now even families who maybe they don't have these conversations around the dinner table might tonight. Maybe they come here and then tonight they're like, what did you think about that? And if we can be stimulating that kind of dialogue among family and friends and communities, that's really what we're here to try to do. The deeper question, I think, is how do we get people interested in history?
In history.
When sometimes that's portrayed as being this dusty old thing, you know, it's maybe, oh my God, horror is a book or something like that, or a documentary or something, make my eyes glaze over. And I think the answer to that, of course, Jason, is how do we connect what's happening now to what's gone before? I think a lot of people are certainly unsettled or aware of just how much chaos is happening in our country right now. And whether they're excited about what's happening or they're upset about what's happening, I think all across the spectrum, there's increased interest into our civic life. And it's important to find ways for people to connect that to what's gone before. That this chaos we're experiencing isn't new. That, Abraham Lincoln in 1862 referred to the stormy present in his message to Congress when he said the quiet dogmas of the present are inadequate to the stormy present. And that was in 1862 during Civil War when we were actively shooting at each other as people. And, so you can go back to 1775 when the revolution is raging, when we're trying to make the Constitution happen in the 1780s, and then the War of 1812, the Civil War, the First World War, the Second World War, confronting fascism around the world, Vietnam and students marching for rights and LGBTQ rights, all of these things. Our story, the American story, is one of chaos. And so I think that if we can use that, what Barbara Tuchman called the distant mirror, and look back to our past and understand that there's this harmonic resonance that whether it was Jefferson or Lincoln, or if it was Susan B. Anthony or whoever these people were, they were just regular people like us trying to do the best they could to form a more perfect union. And so that, I think, is if people can come here and develop that perspective, I think it goes a long way to saying, boy, history is just old current events.
So what do you hope people will take away from this experience when they come to the American Independence Center?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's two things. I think one is that they come away with an appreciation for sort of the cluster that American history has been. I remember when we were in college, when you and I were at UNH, and Cornel West came to speak. And he said, America is dirty and ugly and funky, right? And that's so I hope people get a sense that Washington and Jefferson and Adams and all these founders, we put them up on these pedestals, and rightfully so. They did an amazing thing, but they were regular cats like you and me. And so this appreciation for history also comes away with an appreciation for the power that each of us has to act in our current circumstances. Just like all of these historic figures had to figure out what to do in their stormy present, so too do we get to figure out. We have this not just opportunity, but this privilege to put our oar in the water and help determine what the future of the American experiment is. And I hope people leave here with that sense of obligation and opportunity.
What do people find most interesting when they come, and what do you find most interesting here?
It depends. I mean, there's people who love the artifacts, right? There's people who, the tea from the Boston Tea Party that's over your left shoulder
which
there.
Is right behind us here, which is so cool.
Or being close to, especially when we have the original broadside here. People's eyes get to be saucer plates. That proximity to our tangible parts of our history are so exciting for people. And I get excited about that too. Sometimes people love the weapons. I mean, there's an 8-year-old boy in all of us that loves a pointy stick. And then for me, what I find most compelling is the Gilman draft of the Constitution. We're so familiar with the Constitution or the Declaration being these carved in granite things we see down at the National Archives. This is not that. This is one where instead of saying we the people of the United States, it opens with we the people of the states of New Hampshire and Massachusetts and Connecticut and Rhode Island, Providence, Plantations, and it actually lists out all of the states. And that's just one of the ways it's it's incomplete and it's a work in progress. And to me, that is shorthand for the American experience. Is we are individually, collectively, this work in progress that will never be complete, will never be over, and that all of us has a responsibility to weigh in on. And that document, every day I go, you asked me earlier in our conversation, do I like my job? What do I like about going to work? When every day I get to walk down here and I walk past Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and George Washington, and that's great. And they all judge me with their silent glare. But then I go to that document and I look at it, and it is literally just indisputable visual evidence, as the NFL would say in the replay booth, that we're imperfect. And so we tend to have these heroes that we look to. They were doing the best they could with what they had. And it reminds me to try to do that and encourage others to do that every day. One of the most fascinating things about the United States of America is that we're an invented nation. We're not an ethnicity given borders with shared tribal memories and origin myths and faith traditions. So we invented ourselves just 250 years ago, just yesterday, I mean, in the scheme of things. And so we have this obligation to continue to reinvent who we are, how we relate to one another. And that to me isn't just, exciting. That's ennobling. That's what makes it so much that's what makes being an American such an incredible responsibility and such a privilege that we have the opportunity every day to reinvent this country and this heritage that we all share.
Joe, was there anything else that you feel is important to mention?
Come and see us. That's the main
thing,
right? Like, we'll be throughout the summer. People should until Halloween. So come on down.
Until Halloween, okay.
There's no, as we've said, there's no admission fee.
Right.
Independence is for everyone. And come on in and see us. Come participate in the tour, and more importantly than that, participate in this America.
Well said. Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
Happy to do it.
And I know you got a lot going on here, and it's a big year.
It's a busy
250 years. And well, until next time, remember, every person and every place has a story to tell. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to Grounded in Granite, where we celebrate the people, places, and stories that make New Hampshire home. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow Grounded in Granite on Facebook, X, TikTok, and Instagram for behind-the-scenes clips, photos, and more. Subscribe to the Grounded in Granite YouTube channel to catch full video episodes. You can also find Grounded in Granite on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeart. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and stay grounded in granite.